Holy fuck, I took a lot of notes for this movie and I watched it over a week ago, so that's going to be interesting. So, I reviewed this movie back in December. Oh, and welcome to Monster Monday, right? Shit, I didn't even say that. That's alright. Monster Monday, here we go. The Empty Man, let's talk about it. Now, I reviewed this movie back in December. I was raving about it. I was like, what is everyone talking about? This movie's rad. This movie made my top 25 of the year. Honestly, it should have been higher than where it was. Now, having watched it the second time, honestly, this could be at number one. At number one. I think this movie's fucking great. And my rewatch just solidified that for me for sure. I didn't know where I sat on it because of how much hate it was getting, and I was like, was I delusional? And I kind of questioned myself when I was remaking my list, but now seeing where my list was and what was on it and what it was above this movie, I made a mistake, and I should have put this higher. And now having rewatched it, it would have made it into the top 3 for sure, because this is a fucking rad film. And obviously what prompted this, well, maybe not obviously to every one of you, but to a lot of you, will be that Chris Stuckman did a review on this and talking about how it needs to be a cult classic and this and that. Deserves to be a cult classic, I think is the actual title, which I agree with, and I am very happy that he did that, even though I don't see eye to eye with the guy on things here and there. I do like when people use their platform, if they have a huge platform, to give attention to a film like this that a lot of people would have otherwise not seen otherwise. So good on Chris Stuckman for bringing attention to this film, because I have a measly following compared to him. He's got so many more followers than me. It's insane. Makes me feel like, do I even need a channel? I do, because I love you guys. But him doing that just kind of reinvigorated my desire to watch this again, because after I watched the first time, I was like, you know what, I got to go back and rewatch that, because that movie was rad. And seeing him do that definitely lit that fire. And then my buddy Lee from Drum Dums, he then followed that right up, and he did a video saying like, why isn't anyone talking about this? And I was like, motherfucker, I was talking about this months and months ago. But here we are, Empty Man. Let's talk about it. Let's get into this shit. I will tell you this. Okay. If A24 made this film, people would be blowing this shit right, left, and center. I mean, yeah, I'd have its haters like all A24 films do. But this feels like an A24 film. This has some, atmosphere and some similarities to something like Hereditary, which, as everyone knows, is my favorite horror film of the decade. I mean, maybe of the last 3 decades. I love the fucking film. I can't blow the thing enough. And this film has similarities to it. I'll probably mention one of them specifically at the very end. Of course, I'm going to be talking spoilers here, so strap in. I got a lot of notes. Holy shit. But I'm going to try to streamline this as best as I can. Now, before we get right into it, as far as a physical media presence goes here, a copy of this to actually own. So Chris Stuckman had pointed out that there was no DVD, Blu-ray, this and that. That is sort of true. Sort of true. So I have a copy of it, an actual copy of it. I can't fucking find it right now for some reason. I actually put it out for me to hold up and show you guys. Wherever the hell it is, I'll find it. It's somewhere in this house. But for now, I have an empty hand where the empty man should have been. But yeah, so Netflix, Redbox, got this. They have The Empty Man. So they got DVD copies of this film in the Redbox. And when Redbox has a movie for a little while, they'll start selling them at the box. And you can either rent it for $1.99 or whatever a night, or you can buy the disc for X amount of dollars. So as of right now, you're going to have to act quite quick, because they're not going to last very long. They're eventually going to get rid of it, and I would assume they're going to do that pretty damn quick, because it's been out for a while. They are selling it for $3.99. This is not a rental. A lot of people, when I showed it to them on my Instagram, were like, oh, it's just a rental, bro. No, you can buy it. It is yours for $3.99. So if you can look on your little Redbox app and find a copy of it, this might be the only physical media copy where it's an actual release from the company for a while. I don't know. I think this will eventually get a release. Now that Chris Stuckman brought some attention to it, I'm sure it's going to gain a bigger cult following because of him. So good to him. Good on him for that. But as of right now, Redbox is the only place to buy it that I'm aware of. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Link me to a German website or what the fuck ever. I think Germany was the one that was supposed to get a 4K release for this, but maybe that got scrapped. I do not know. But as of right now, Redbox. Go out to your local Redbox, get the app, find where it is to purchase, and pick it up before there's an empty box. Okay, enough with the empty jokes. So we get a very long opening here, which I absolutely love. I know some people think that this opening is mostly pointless and it could be trimmed down to like 5 minutes. Bullshit. 100% bullshit. I do not agree. I would not cut a goddamn second out of this film. 2 hours and 16 minutes of perfection to me. I don't have an issue with this film's runtime or any of the scenes within it. Do I get every single thing in this film completely? Absolutely not. But that's the beauty of this film is going to be a mindfuck for years to come with anybody. And that's the best films in general, are films that have this kind of air to them of mystery, where they leave things ambiguous. If they have a very ambiguous nature to them, then you're left with ambiguity. And that's great for you. That's great for your mind. That's great for discussion. And for years and years, what happened? It's kind of like The Shining. Why is Jack in the picture at the end? Because he was always there? Because he was inserted after? Like, you have your interpretations of it. You can see the film in many different ways. That's this film. This film has multiple different kinds of takes on this scene or that scene or what this all means. Nothing is spoon-fed. You have to analyze the film by watching it multiple times and picking up on this and that, and I'm still not there yet. But after having watched it 2 times, I definitely feel like I have a better grasp on it than I did the first time, that's for sure. And I picked up things, and then, of course, Kaylee and I discussed this pretty in depth after we watched it, and we came to a very strong conclusion of our thoughts on the matter. But we still had, I don't know about disagreements, but we had places where we were like, I don't know if I think that's what happened. I think this is what happened, which is what's great about this fucking film. So we get this 1995 opening, and we get these characters who are out, and they're hiking, and this guy falls down, and his friend goes after him. This shit is all so eerie. This whole film is eerie. This guy who's like a David Fincher fucking protege, essentially, like he was working on all his special features and whatnot. He is masterful in this. This is his directorial debut, to my knowledge, and this is a fantastic, phenomenal directorial debut, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. Hopefully he gets something, because it would be a damn shame if no one picked up on his talent that he has in this film. This is that slow burn, atmospheric fucking movie that I love. Something like The Mothman Prophecies or something that really just kind of seeps into your subconscious and fucks with your mind and slowly just creeps in on you. I love this kind of stuff. Give me more of this stuff. Not that I don't like the more fun, thrilling, fast-paced. That's all good too, and I like that those films exist. I don't need everything to be Hereditary. I don't need everything to be The Witch. I don't need everything to be The Empty Man. And I put this on the level of those films I just mentioned, which you guys all know that I fucking I hold those films in such high regard, like a Babadook or something. These slow burn, atmospheric mind fucks of films. That's what I personally love, and this is one of those higher echelons types of films for that. So yeah, he falls down in the crevasse, then he goes down there, and then we see the remnants of what was originally the Empty Man, or a vessel for the Empty Man, or something, some bones that was calling to him. This guy plays on his flute. That has, a lot to do with this film for summoning the Empty Man. And then we get this guy who's just whispering. The sound design in this movie is phenomenal. The sound design in this film is fucking so great. I can't get over it. Just like the guy leaning over the girl, and you just hear the, and he just like pans up, and he's just in her ear whispering, and you're like, what the fuck is he saying? Oh my god, what is this? Oh my god, what the fuck is happening? I love it. I love it. I love the eeriness of this, the creepiness of this, the way everything's shot. Oh man, this movie's beautiful. This movie's so well acted. This movie's so well shot. This movie's so well paced for me. I love it all, man. I have no complaints. I'm legit. I have no complaints about this movie. I think it's like near perfect. I don't know what to say about it that I don't like, especially on the second viewing. This is like one of the best fucking horror films of the decade. I just cannot get enough of this film. I think it's definitely the most overlooked horror film of last year. That's far and away true, and I wish I would have maybe given this even more attention than I did, and as I said, put it higher on my year-end list, because now I'm just like going back and rewatching it being like, wow, this is even better than I was saying it was. So I feel like I underplayed this movie when I watched it, but I was so taken aback, I was so taken off guard, because I thought this movie was going to be shit. And when I was like, oh my god, this is actually great, like my brain was like not being able to process it. So when I went to press record on the review 5 seconds later, I was just like, this is actually really good. And then like as I processed it later and I thought about it more after the review was done, I was like, you know what? I didn't put that high in. Like I didn't talk high enough about this movie. And then the year-end list came, and very shortly after. And I was like, well, I don't know where to put this. I don't know, I'm making excuses here, but it should have been higher. And yeah, man, just all this opening. The opening alone is phenomenal. If this was a short film, it'd be my favorite short film ever. I'd be blowing the hell out of this short film of just like this guy who goes down there and he's like, if you touch me, you'll die. And he's like, if you touch me, you'll die. And it's all like quiet, and the guy comes in, he says it again, and then he just like reaches out, and when he does that, when he puts his fucking hand onto him, the guy, you can see, is visibly like upset. He's like, oh, like, why'd you do that? Like, now you have to die. Like, you can tell there's like some part of his friend that's left in there. And the reason that this guy is able to become the empty man's vessel is because we see his wrist has been slashed, and he has went through great sorrow and pain, and so he is the perfect conduit. He's the perfect transmitter for the empty man's broadcast to create this bridge between, because that's what the Pontifex Institute, Pontifex, the word even means, is bridge builders. That's exactly what these guys are even trying to do. They're trying to build a bridge between the different realities, realms, whatever. And there's the empty man, and then there's the vessel, which is what James becomes or is created for, because he's a tulpa. But yeah, just like the way that this plays out, the guy falls down there after he's lured there, and he's the only one that can hear it, because he's the only one sad enough and traumatized enough to hear it, because the empty man has to feed on your fear. He's somebody who really feeds on somebody's pain and their fear and their sadness and their sorrow. That's why when James is created, when the tulpa is created, he's created with this tragic backstory, because his character has to be created, and then he has to live these 3 days, and he has to present himself as the perfect vessel for the empty man to possess or latch onto, so that it can become he can become a conduit. He can become that bridge for them to interpret the messages of the empty man through. So his backstory, that's why when he finds the file, it's filled with all of this negativity. It's his wife and his kid died while he was having an affair and all this, which none of this ever happened. He's just, made to believe it is, so that he can be the vessel. They create the tulpa specifically for this. But he has to believe he's real. He has to believe that he's sad. He has to believe he's a piece of shit, that he's done nothing but terrible things. He cheated on his wife when she died, He left them behind. He should have been with them. Like, he's this tragic soul, and he's like going around and he's discovering these things so he can be lured to this site, and he can blow in the bottle, and he can summon the empty man, and all this stuff. It's all staged 100%, like, you know, The Game or something with Michael Douglas. It's all this huge, big, elaborate staging to make him the vessel for the empty man, which is brilliant. It's brilliant. This girl comes in and she convinces him that he's had an affair with the mom, and the mom needs him because they have a past together. So he goes off and he comes out of like detective retirement to hunt this girl down, and through looking for her, this is what brings him into this cult. And in doing so, this is what leads him to, you know, summon the empty man to him. And then just like throughout it, he's encountering the empty man. He's learning about the Institute, and he's learning about these things as he's investigating through it, so he can become even more entangled into this web that they need him to be. Like, fuck, I love this film so much. I think it's very confusing and very hard for some people to follow, and I completely understand that. I really, really had to fucking watch it twice, have a great conversation with my girlfriend about this, and then, you know, think about it and take notes and sit in my bed, honestly. And that's what I want film for, right? That's what I want out of a movie that's going to really resonate and it was really going to connect with, is I need a film that's going to make me sit there and discuss things with somebody who watched it with me or who has seen it. Whether it's my girlfriend or whether it's a friend online or whoever the fuck, and then sit in my bed even after that discussion and be like, yeah, okay, like, wait, so did he ever exist? And like, what was the point of this cult? And what are they trying to get from him? And this and that. And like, as you're putting the pieces together, there's still questions that I have for sure. But those are good questions. Those are questions that I don't need the answer to. Those are questions that I can fill in my own headcanon, and people can fill in their own other headcanon. And then we can even disagree, like, oh, maybe he had a body. But to me, that doesn't make sense, because the tulpa itself is like time and thought, equals flesh. There's another one of those, time, whatever the third one is, it doesn't matter. But it's flesh. They created a human being out of it, and they created him from this. Now, where they got his picture, or did he have pictures? They had pictures of him strapped to the chair, which is probably where he was created from. I think him in the chair is his genesis. I think that's where he started. Then they push him out into the world, and his first day on Earth is him going and celebrating his birthday, which is great, right? It's a great reveal that that's his literal birthday. It's not like a celebration of his birth that happened years ago. This is his literal birthday. He was born today. So he wouldn't be able to use that all too often joke used in movies, like, you know, I was born, but it wasn't today. Yes, it was. Yes, it the fuck was. But yeah, so anyways, I'm not even looking at my notes. But there's just so many great scenes in this. As I said, all the sound design stuff. The girl going out, and she like, when she blows into the fucking little bone thing, then she enters her own little dimension there, and she sees the empty man outside, and she walks, and he's this hooded figure with like cloth and shit blowing in the wind, almost like the mummy's coming unraveled or something. And then it like, she takes a step forward and it takes a step back. And then she does another one, takes a step forward, and then it starts taking a step forward as she takes steps back, and then it starts running at her. Brilliant. This is brilliant fucking like construction of a scare sequence. This is how you build tension. This is how you build eeriness, creepiness. This is stuff that seeps into your mind, as I talked about. This isn't just jump scares. This isn't the person sitting here and this swelling and it's moving, and jump scares aren't bad. I'm not saying they are, but this to me is high class horror. This is like highbrow horror to me. And then there's lowbrow, and I'm fine with lowbrow. I don't mind lowbrow. I fucking started this channel to do slasher movies from the 80s, and a lot of them are trash. Like, objectively trash. They're not good movies, but I still find great enjoyment out of them. This, on the other hand, is the opposite of that, and is really quite something. And oh god, there's just such a subtlety to the directing here too. There's such good restraint for a rookie director, like just like visual storytelling here. When James goes to open the medicine cabinet and we keep seeing his ring reminding us that he's no longer married, and putting that thing into our mind, because we don't have the full story yet of like what happened, why isn't he married, what's going on with that ring in the medicine cabinet, and what's going on with his relationship with his neighbor, and why is he so involved when, you know, with her kid who he's looking for, Amanda. Like, what is all that stuff? It leaves these like little threads open for you to pull on a little bit here and there and be like, oh fuck is in here, what's going on here, you know. But just those that ring in the medicine cabinet, and the redundancy of things, like the repetitive nature of things and the cycles and all that stuff is so well done and so well constructed in this film as well. God, it's so fucking great. And then yeah, just going backwards. Sorry, I'm all over the place with this film, but the scene where they're out in the mountain and then the girl comes up and she just like, you know, stabs one person and slashes her friend's throat, and then fucking, you know, she just back dives off of the mountain, and then he's just sitting there. Oh, it's so eerie, it's so scary, and it's like 25 minutes in before we get the empty man, you know, the title card of the film. It's like, that's the opening, that's the fucking opening. My girlfriend was even like, that was the opening. I'm like, isn't it awesome? She's like, yes. She loved this movie just as much as me, which is so great. It's so good to talk about this with somebody who, you know, you're just so excited about talking about it with. Talking about this with somebody who didn't like it, that would be something. I wouldn't want to do that. It'd be interesting, but fuck, man, I don't know. I would just sit there and question them the whole damn time. Like, really, you didn't like how? And then, oh man, there's two scenes in particular that I'm jumping all over the fucking place with my notes in the movie. I don't care. There's two scenes that really got to me the first time I watched it and worked just as well this time, and they're just eerie as fuck, or just outright terrifying. And the first one's just eerie, the second one's terrifying. But they just both stuck with me after the film, and did so the second time as well. And that was when he finds the bodies under the bridge, and the way that he finds them, and he hears the subtle like banging of the foot, you know, on the metal there. And then he turns and he sees the one body, and then he like leans and he looks over and he sees the whole string of bodies, everyone minus Amanda. The way that's shot, the way the sound design is done, the reveal of the more bodies, then the shot of them all hanging there, then the shot of him finding so slowly, looking up at the empty man made me do it. All that stuff is fucking brilliant. Now, why people kill themselves, my theory on that is that they're not, I don't know, they're not the vessels, right? They're not the vessels for it. The reason Amanda is able to maybe withstand it is because we see that she had her wrist slashed. Now, she tells her boyfriend or her love interest or whoever the fuck this guy is, she tells him that she fell through French doors. She was like joking, like, oh, I didn't actually try to kill myself. I think she might have. After her father's death, which I actually do think happened. Maybe she was suicidal, and this is where she was lured to the empty man. And then she became a pretty higher up person in this cult. And then she maybe was the one who came up. I think she even says this. I was the one who came up with creating the tulpa. I don't know. But then we even get that person. Okay, wait. Staying on track here. That's one scene. Bridge. They look around. As I said, maybe they die because they're just not proper vessels for the empty man, even as a disciple, even as a follower, because they don't have trauma, because I don't know. I don't have a reason, but I like it because I like how it all happens. And then there's that girl in the shower, in the steam, which is great. Oh, what a fantastic fucking kill. So shocking. Just like stabbing her in the face so fast, and then it like cuts to like we see her and she's stabbing herself in the face with a pair of shears. That's brutal, man. Absolutely brutal. And we actually get to see some boobies in there as well. Which in a movie like this, I go give a fuck. I don't need to see any nudity at all. But this is a very attractive girl, and seeing nudity isn't the most horrible thing in the world. So, but the scene, I mean, it doesn't need it, but I'm not gonna complain. But what a brutal sequence, man. Just boom, 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 boom. The fucking way he's stabbing her and the way it's edited and the way it's cut, like, oh, it's so unnerving. I don't know. It's very unsettling looking with the way he's stabbing her in the face. And then when it cuts to her doing it to herself, and then she lands and her face starts bleeding out. Woo! What a kill, man. What a kill. So great. But then the other scene that really left me unsettled, and I would say everybody probably knows what scene I'm about to talk about, but this is the cult around the fire. And then they all, like, he looks over and then he looks back and they're all looking at him. And then they all shuffle forward and he takes a step back, just mirroring that scene from 95 where she takes the step forward, they take the step, they mimic the steps and then they all start running towards him and they're jumping on his car and he's driving away and he's like, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? Like, that's so, oh, it's so great, man. When the flames rise up and he's starting to see shit because, he's now exposed to all of this and he's becoming closer and closer to confronting what is his fate. It's just that, all that's so great. All of that is so, so great. But when they turn and they're all just looking at him and he looks out and then he's like, nope, and he runs away. It's kind of funny, but it's also scary. And when they all start running and they all start moving, brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. One of the kids on the bridge is Patrick Hockstetter from It, so that was cool. And I love the urban legend, urban myth stuff about this film. I think it's brilliant. I think it's so well done. I know I've said brilliant enough here, but it really is. And this film does feel pretty original too. I know it's based on a comic book, but I've never read that, and from what I've heard, it really doesn't do a very good job of covering the comic. Knowing how much I love this fucking film, I have to say, like, I'm glad they didn't follow the comic, whatever the comic is, because I love what I got, but as far as I'm aware, this doesn't really have that. The music is so odd and off-putting in this movie as well. I love it. I know I keep saying that. I apologize because it's like I love everything about the film, but I can't help myself. I'm excited. And the VHS tape that he finds is very creepy, and I'm assuming that this is the last attempt to try to transfer over I think they might even say that, but whatever. This is the last attempt, and he's just losing it, and the blood that he's writing. Now, the painting he makes up on the wall and whatnot actually mirrors what happens after, James blows the head off of John Doe. I can't remember what his name is at the beginning of the movie, but he blows his head off, which is a gnarly looking scene where he shoots him in his head and he shoots him in that third eye, but he shoots him here and then he shoots him like a couple more times and his head completely blows up and it's all over the wall. And as I said, it mirrors that painting that guy's making. So it's like foreshadowed, fated to be. I think that's great, and I love the gore effect, and it's so creepy the way the guy looks. The dude that has been a vessel for the last 20 odd years, like he looks so fucking creepy looking. And when he gets his head shot and he's not even moving and his head explodes and all that, it's very unsettling. It's very unnerving. So really good on them for that as well. So great stuff there. And let's see. I already talked about most of that. Imagine being pepper sprayed and then handcuffed so you couldn't even touch your eyes and just had to sit there and just let the pepper spray soak into your eyes. Him constantly keep talking about how he grew up in San Francisco. This is him trying to reiterate to himself that he exists. He keeps saying that because he's not sure of who he is or where he's from. He just kind of has to keep reminding himself, maybe even so much so that he's a person without much depth to him. Maybe he doesn't have much of a backstory. Maybe he doesn't know what else to say in certain situations. That's why he keeps repeating things like, I'm from San Francisco, because he has nothing more to draw from, because he's a manifestation of a couple people's intention of thinking about him until he comes into existence. So that's even possible as well. You wouldn't be a very deep thinker if you were created yesterday, right? Although at the end of this movie it'd be 3 days ago. And then the nurse that's there, they're all part of the cult. Everybody who works in that damn hospital is part of that cult that keeps him in there, which I guess makes sense because he's been there for a while. They could have transferred everyone in, killed people to get him out of there so they could all worship him and take care of him, and they all have the same shifts together to keep watch. So I can understand that, and that's also would give these people the ability to come in 10 at a time and pray in front of him without getting any kind of pushback. So I think that all makes sense. And then when he calls up the girl he had the affair with, Nora, who was just in The Dark and the Wicked, and actually looks a fuck ton like another actress who I was like, when I first saw her, I was like, oh, that's the chick from The Swerve, which I just recently watched. And then I looked her up and I was like, oh, wait, no, that's not her. But holy shit, these actresses look exactly the damn same. Wow, look up the movie The Swerve, and that actress, who I think is even in like Sons of Anarchy, or is it this one that's in the Sons of Anarchy? When they go to like Ireland or whatever the fuck they go to. And yeah, when the empty man chases him, that stuff's really creepy, and then enters him by and he has like tentacles, it's very Lovecraftian, and then he like vomits into his mouth and takes him over. And yeah, and then he becomes that vessel for the empty man, and he is the empty man, I guess, in the end. But yeah, what a fantastic film. I've talked about it enough. What are your guys' thoughts on this film? Have you seen it? Are you going to go pick up the Redbox copy of it, so you actually have a physical copy of this for now? I don't know if it's streaming anywhere outside of renting. I don't know if it's on a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or a Hulu or anything. I don't think it is, but definitely check. Download the Just Watch app so you know where to actually find these things where they're streaming. But obviously this has my giant seal of approval. I know that this titular character, the empty man, isn't in the film a lot, and maybe some people think that this should have picked one plot, but I think all the plots, whatever they may be, intersect all at once, and there is only one plot of this film. It just might feel like there's different elements because it's a monster movie and it's a cult movie, but it's a cult movie that is about a cult that worships a monster. So to me, it is all one story, and it fits perfectly together, and the opening is not too long, and this film is not too long. And that's my opinion on it. Definitely disagree with me down below and tell me what your thoughts on it. Maybe you have different takes on certain things. I'll love to hear about it. And yeah, adios.